I felt like power had been taken from me, I guess you could say. I couldn't focus on anything else but the fact that we were having a baby that I had COVID. Fear had come in and taken over. Demonic attack, oppression, I didn't handle it good. Well, you could have prevented this. Why didn't you vaccinate? Whatever. So then the enemy, he came in and he said,
I'd like to hand it over to Tricia and see, because I know you got quite the testimony. You got quite the testimony, and I just want to hear from you real quick and see where you're at with all that.
um, so the story that I was thinking of in regards to demonic oppression is the story of Job, because on the flip side of what or yeah, Cain killed Abel, like Job did not give in to the demonic oppression that was coming against him, which a lot of people refer to as spiritual attacks. So it looked like the enemy was going to win with him, and he did lose a lot in the process, but he still remained faithful to the Lord, and God restored his life. And so I think that every every believer is going to experience demonic oppression. I like to refer to it as spiritual attack. And so a little bit about my story is that in 2022, we were having our last baby, number 5. And COVID was still like really crazy at that time. And so I went into the hospital because I was feeling sick. And I thought, well, it's time for the baby, because your hormones are doing crazy things. You can feel all kinds of ways when you're about to have a baby. And they were like, no, you have COVID. And so Lars was at work and I was in the ER, and they were like, we have to take the baby now because we don't know what's going to happen to the baby. And we don't know how serious your COVID could get. So like right then, I just felt the spirit of fear just come over me, because I was 38 weeks, so I wasn't quite ready to deliver the baby yet, but I felt like power had been taken from me, I guess you could say. So they called Lars and he came down, and we're having a baby, and I have COVID, and the whole time we're there, everyone is freaking out. And so then that instead of like, I couldn't focus on anything else but the fact that we were having a baby that I had COVID. And then actually Lars had COVID too, and he couldn't stay awake. He was way worse than me. And honestly, I was pretty asymptomatic. Like I was okay, but because fear had come in and taken over, like completely taken over the whole situation. And I'm seeing Lars and he can't stay awake. And then I have the baby, and the baby tests positive for COVID. So then they made us stay in the hospital for 4 days, isolated into the room. Everyone treated us like we had leprosy. It was just so crazy. So the fear just kept getting worse and worse and worse through the whole process. And I mean, we were definitely under demonic attack, oppression, I didn't handle it good. Okay. So Lars is like, we're going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. Like the baby has COVID. He has no symptoms. I have COVID. I have no symptoms, but I'm literally requesting them to send a respiratory therapist to our room because I think I'm dying of COVID. I don't even have a cough. Now, Lars, he couldn't stay awake. And so they really took a situation that was not, like we were in this situation, it wasn't really that big of a deal, but because of all the fear whatever, all the fear around COVID, and we didn't vaccinate. And so then that was a whole nother deal, because they were like, well, you could have prevented this. Why didn't you vaccinate? Whatever. Anyways, and just the whole situation, it just was so chaotic. And so we get to come home and we have COVID. So then nobody will come help us. Like nobody's helping us. Lars can't stay awake. And I just had our 3rd baby in 3 years. So I literally, mind you, I still have no symptoms of COVID. I don't have nothing. But I convinced myself that I was dying, like literally dying. And so because Lars couldn't, like he had the when I don't know if you've had COVID, but sometimes when people have COVID, they can't stay awake, like they're real tired, and so he couldn't stay awake. So on the flip side, I wouldn't go to sleep because I thought I was going to die, or who was going to take care of our kids. So what I did is I trained my mind and my body to be fearful of sleeping. So then the enemy, he came in and he said, okay, well, you've given me an inch. I'm going to take a mile and I'm going to torment you in your sleep. Before that day, Lars is a witness, I had never had anxiety. I had never had anything like any issues at all. And here I am, and I'm dead asleep, and I would have night terrors, and I would wake up in complete panic. And just out of the blue in my sleep, it would literally, possession would just come over. And so we were going to we went to the hospital like 5 times. What's going on? And so the world's fix for all that is always going to be like antidepressants, anxiety medicine. And then like we've gotten so far from Christianity in America that they will put you on medicine, and then you have to have more medicine to deal with the medicine you're on, and nobody ever deals with the root. And so I'm telling people, like, they're like, this is not your fault, your hormones are a mess. And I'm like, no, like, I allowed fear to consume my mind and take over me. And we were like trying to get me to baseline and trying to get me functioning, because at that point it had taken over like all of me, like my mind. I was having panic attacks, and I couldn't even function. Like, I could not function. And anyway, so I was trying to do everything right, like eat right. um, I was exercising at 2 o'clock in the morning because I could not sleep. I lost so much weight. I mean, I'm doing everything by the book that every doctor tells you to do, thinking that, you know, this is going to help me get better. We're balancing the hormones, we're doing all this kind of stuff. Well, a minister came over and he told me, he was like, you're never going to be free because you're fighting in your flesh. You're not fighting in the spirit. And you have to build up your spirit, man, stronger than your flesh. You have to quit going to the doctor, quit listening to all these people, and get your mind delivered, because that's ultimately what is coming against you. And it was like, I just, the Lord just was like, this is your solution. And so me and Lars, we just began to press into that. And I just quit going to take all these supplements, quit going to the doctor, quit doing this. And I really started to build up my spirit, man. And then slowly, like, it wasn't just an all at once deliverance. Like, it was a process of healing of the soul. And in that process, the Lord had like, there were things in the past, like part of my past, that I had not shared with people before, because I didn't want to be judged by that, because like it was before Jesus. So I wanted to be, so I was like, I want to be free, because if people know who I was before, then I would be judged by that. And they would look at me different. And I mean, my past is horrible. It's a lot. But anyway, so I hadn't shared that with Lars or anybody. Like, I had never told anybody what had happened, like, for years, and like before Christ. And so it was like hidden things in my soul that had to be dealt with, that were manifesting through this situation. And I think like the fear that came in from COVID was just like the avenue that God used so that he could deal with the secret things of my heart. See, a lot of people, I think they walk around with a facade on. Yeah, the examples in the Bible, like the guy in Mark 5, where he was in a cave and he was cutting and crying. We always think, or, schizophrenia people and that kind of stuff. You always think about those are the possessed people. But people that operate in the spirit of Jezebel, and they operate manipulation, and that's possession. And the enemy can blind us to think that we're in good standings with the Lord, but we have these secret hidden things of the heart that need to be dealt with. And it eventually does come out. And a lot of times it comes out in the form of mental health, depression, anxiety. It's all linked together. Every part of our being, the spirit, the mind, our will, emotions, our body, it's all one unit. Like, it's not separate. So yes, I had all these physical symptoms that were taking place in my body, but really the root of it was rooted in fear and the secret things of the heart that had not been dealt with. And so as I began to be honest with Lars and other people, and start like, okay, God, I just got so desperate to the point to be free of the mind. Like I could not, I was tormented in my mind. Like I literally would be at Sam's and be like, oh, I want to be homeless because they do nothing all day. And then I'm like, no, you don't want to do that. Like it was just constant turmoil in my spirit and I had no rest. But as I started dealing with the things the Lord had brought to the forefront of my mind and said, you need to get free of this kind of stuff. Then the deliverance happened and it kept happening and kept it was a progressive deliverance. And then finally I was just free of of the anxiety. No, I didn't do the medicines. I didn't do all that. I was like, I'm not doing all that. I'm going to deal with this. And even though it was costly for my family, it was costly for everyone around me. We walked through it together and we just surrendered to the Lord, and now we can walk in total freedom. And I don't have to deal with the bag or the guilt of, oh, hey, there's things that people don't know about you. Like you're not who you say you are in a real sense. Even though it was in the past before we got married, before I even knew him, it's still a part of who I was, and it's a part of the testimony that God wants to use to reach other people. But if we don't give him that place, then we'll just always stay bound. So, hope that answers your question.